Hi, good evening, everyone, and a very warm welcome to all of you in this webinar. We are very excited to have all of you with us today. My name is Neha Joshi, and I lead the digital and success functions here at TapFin. Now, before we begin, I have a very small and very quick surprise for all of you here today. So we are starting with the early access offer for all of you who have registered for this webinar. And we are giving a 1 month of free subscription to people who register for the one-on-one demo of the platform with our fleet experts. This offer is valid for today and tomorrow, and you can register using the link that we have pinged in the Q&A section. Now, let me start with a quick walkthrough of the agenda that we have for today. And we'll start with a short introduction of TapFin and the vision behind our work, led by our co-founder and CEO, Aditya Singh. This will be followed by session 1, where we'll dive into the ground reality problems the fleet operators, logistics, and transportation industry faces every day. A conversation between, again, Aditya Singh, our CEO and co-founder, and Shrikant Reddy, co-founder and CEO of Hala Mobility. At the end of this session, we will take up three quick questions directed to our expert speakers in this session. In session 2, we'll move into the next set of audience, the lenders. And our co-founder and COO, Taniza Berry, will have a conversation with Sadbir Singh, business head EV of Bike Bazaar, highlighting the lender side of problems when taking a decision on financing the vehicle industry, especially the electric vehicles. Again, at the end, we'll take up three questions for the lender's perspective directed to our speakers of this session. Session 3 will cover an overview of the platform FleetForce, given by our Chief Business Officer, Nikhil Sehgal. And finally, session 4, where we'll see the first look of our platform FleetForce, a live demonstration given by our product head, Yugraj Shukla. Throughout this session, we encourage all of you to share your questions in the Q&A section that we have kept open for all of you. We'll take up all of these questions one by one towards the end once we complete all the sessions. To kick things off, I would like to now invite our co-founder and CEO, Aditya Singh, to share a quick introduction about TapFin and set the stage for today's discussions. Over to you, Aditya.
Thank you, Neha. So welcome to all the participants. It's indeed a pleasure and a privilege to have all of you here. When we started TapFin around 18 odd months ago, I wasn't sure that we would see the sort of love and support that I'm seeing here on the platform and on this webinar right now. And of course, a lot of conversations that some of us on this call have had earlier. Neha, you want to just quickly present, who we are and what we do, while I sort of talk through, why we felt a need to do this and what exactly are we building, right? So on the slide, you'll be able to see who we are. Now this is the boring stuff, right? The more important thing is not what we do or who we are, but how are we doing this and why are we doing this, right? As I said, we always believe that you cannot just look at a problem in isolation. We've always sort of looked at the clean mobility and logistics ecosystem as as one whole with various friction points that need to be solved on the on the path to transition to sustainability, as well as generally moving logistics into a new era. Right. So we always take an ecosystem approach to this ecosystem. We understood that the various issues that impact this industry, especially the EV industry, around the paucity of understanding data correctly. How do you sort of build models, which help you draw out your utilization numbers? The issues that all operators feel with or face with financing, building early warning signals, looking at fleet performance and fleet optimization, portfolio optimization. Right. So we looked at all of this information and coming in from a lender perspective, which we have been in the last 18 odd months, where we facilitated lending through a fintech platform, which a few of you might have been exposed to, and then of course our own NBFC called Go Green Capital. We realized that this actually solving for this and removing all the friction points require a more data-led and partnership-driven model than trying to solve one individual problem at one point in time, right? Over the last 18 months, we must have spent time with hundreds of fleet operators, OEMs, IoT hardware providers, financiers in the country, we realized that we need to really build some contextualized data models, right? Some of the work that's been done was very wasn't really taking into consideration the changed realities and the abundance of data in this ecosystem. And what we've done is to ensure that we attack this from two perspectives, right? We have to look at it from a technology perspective, and we also have to look at it from a financing perspective. And that really is where we come from, where we say that we are at the intersection of technology and financing, because those are two core things that we understand. I think it's important to sort of understand the people behind this. A very quick introduction. I said my name is Aditya. I'm the CEO and co-founder of TapFin. Have more than 20 years experience in banking, financial services, consulting. My last company was a startup called CreditMate, which wasn't used two-wheeler financing, which is when no one was really looking at that ecosystem at all. 2019, we pivoted that to create a collections tech stack, which I then sold to the Paytm Group back in 2021. And then this is sort of the new rodeo, where we're trying to really build financing. My other co-founder, who you'll hear from later, and she's going to lead the lending session, comes with a lot of experience in lending background, and let my team sort of introduce themselves as in once they come into this, right? Uh, let me now take this discussion further. It'd be extremely boring if we just talked about TapFin and FleetForce while we'll do that. I think it's important to sort of hear the perspective of practitioners and operators in this ecosystem, right? So, it's a great pleasure that I introduce Shrikant Reddy from Hala Mobility to this call. Neha, can you have Shrikant up?
Hi, Aditya.
Hi, Shrikant. How are you?
All well, all well. Thank you for asking. How's everything with you?
All well, all well. So,
Data.
Shrikant and TapFin have been associated for a while now, and it's really been our pleasure. I'm sure a lot of people know Hala Mobility on this webinar. I'll let of course Shrikant talk more about Hala. I was just before this call having a chat with him, and I came across this LinkedIn post saying they've close to 5,500 vehicles now on their platform, getting close to the 10,000 number that you said at your last fundraise, right? So I think the ecosystem and the industry is looking forward to seeing you do that. Shrikant, of course, is about dual masters in telecom and ICT, right? And so it's always great to have this massive conversation about data from Shrikant. So welcome, Shrikant, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Aditya. I think it's my privilege to be part of this session, and congratulations. The D-Day is here for FleetForce. Congratulations to everyone in the team to kind of pull this up. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And so let me start this out. We really and every time I'm on a panel, I sort of do this because it's important to understand the person behind a company, and so would love to sort of understand your vision. How did you get started? How did Hala Mobility come along? So would love to hear your journey on this.
Yeah, I think FleetForce is something close to my heart as well. Whatever you've built, what you're launched today. Because when we launched Hala in 2019, our whole idea was to be a mobility intelligence platform, right? Where everything is data driven, scientific approach, and statistically validated. Then you kind of scale it up. So a little background about me is I've finished my bachelor's in computer science engineering, with the first master's in telecommunications, second master's in big data, machine learning, AI. I finished my PhD over urban shared mobility, Helsinki chapter. Built a platform called Chippy, took a complete exit. And while working with Chippy, I had a chance to work with Uber, Car2Go, Daimler, Hispano Suiza. Launched the supercard in 2019 in Geneva Expo. With all the expertise, academia, research, I wanted to kind of look into Indian market. That's where Hala is born. And for Hala, we wanted to be again a mobility intelligence platform. Again, someone wants to set up fleet operation. Someone wants to set up the charging point. Someone wants to set up their own set of operations. We kind of wanted to give them a right set of tools, data, and information. Say that so that their two North Star metrics are always achieved, right? Like your uptime and the utilization. So given that, given the scenario when we went ahead and tried to sell that particular solution, it was like too early in the market. No one were looking into that. We wanted to kind of build our own solution. So we took a long haul, started deploying the fleet by ourselves, learning the things. Today, if you ask me to build algorithm around, AI or big data or ML, I'd be, I think I would be the right person, but I think operations was never my thing. Operations is something I've learned in the past 5 years, and India taught me too many lessons. That's a little bit of our journey in the last 5 years, right? Like again, starting from 20 to 200 to 1,000 to today 5,446 as we speak, and by the end of this month we should be at least 6,100 plus. And things are going pretty well. A lot of challenges, crazy roller coaster rides, a lot of learnings around the fleet, batteries, operations, customers, different business models. Oof, what a journey.
No, I completely agree. This takes me back to my earlier startup, CreditMate, and I'm sure anyone who's built a SaaS business also knows this, that India's a difficult market, and it's easier to earn $1 than to earn a rupee, as they say, right? But just take us through your the operational challenges that we faced in this scale up, right? Because we see a lot of people, and purely coming from both personal experience as well as what we see in the last 2 years, is there's a certain limit to which people are able to scale, right? And then you start to hit roadblocks, and find it difficult to move, the business along, especially doing it profitably and keeping unit economics and key metrics in place. Yeah. So talk us through some of the operational challenges you faced, and then how did you go about solving for these?
Yeah, I think the way we have to look at least what the mistakes that we've done is, when we started Hala, we wanted to kind of give that premium luxury wala feel to the customers, giving them right hefty kind of products out in the market. But then something we have to realize is, again, sorry for what I'm saying, it's Indian customers lack the social discipline. When it's not mine, they do not treat like it's mine, right? And that's why there are a lot of challenges, a lot of learnings from different fleet operators who have started before us and started after us as well. And the kind of abuse, the kind of vandalism, the kind of stuff that happens over the vehicle is crazy. And for you to kind of get your right ROI, it's really going to be difficult. Someone say today, if I have to deploy a vehicle worth 30,000 rupees or a vehicle worth 1.5 lakh rupee, my earning potential on both these vehicles is always same. So I would rather choose a vehicle which is at a lower cost, and then deploy it, scrap it off from my system very quick, and then replenish my stocks every now and then. And the other way around, if I have to go with a higher cost of asset, then it's really not working out. So there are multiple things that we have to look into. One is your type of an asset, the type of a customer, and the kind of a geography you're working in. And what we also feel over a period of time is, if I have a crore rupee, I bring like, some 200, 300 vehicles, deploy it on the ground, I run it. The moment it is 200, 300, 500 numbers, everything is good on Excel. You can actually write on a pen and paper and get your operations done. You really don't need a lot of technology around it. But then when the scale increases, the kind of customers you walk into, the kind of problems you go through on the ground, it can be operationally, handling the different types of asset, different kinds of customers, different locations in the city. If you can't track, trace, monitor, control your assets, and at the same time, you're not able to understand what is going on the ground, you're taken on a ride. And for me, these rides have been super common in the first few years, where burnt my hands with warranties, burnt my hands with the uptime, burnt my hands with the utilization side of it. You have to believe what is going on the ground, because you are really not looking at what is going on. So a lot of challenges. It can be in terms of your internal teams, it can be in terms of your customer, it can be in terms of your partners. As long as you don't track, trace, monitor, control, all these three pillars are going to break. And at the end of the day, people are going to suffer for the huge capital that they have spent. So in a nutshell, if I have to summarize, you need to have your tech from day one. You need to have your your kind of an asset that you're zeroing down, and ensuring that how you're different. Because today I think there are 57 odd players, someone like us, in the Indian market. How would you be different from others? So
Yeah.
for them to be different, you kind of need to build your entire stack yourself.
So I just want to lay it out there. This is Shrikant's own view. This is not a plug that, that we manufactured for FleetForce. So everything he's saying on data is, I think, from both a practitioner as well as data. But Shrikant, do you think you personally also have ever gotten into this sort of thinking? I know anecdotally how things work. I don't need to deploy technology till it. So I'll just give you an example, and I think Tanuja will lean more into it. As a lender, and when we were doing collections and in the credit made ecosystem, right? There, and we're working a lot of fleet operators, and we're giving them models to use. Sorry, not fleet operators, but collection agencies, and giving them models to use, right? The one pushback that we got was, hey, we've been doing this for years and years, and anecdotally we sort of understand how collections is done, right? So do you personally, have you sort of felt that you thought, I don't need to deploy so much capital into technology, or deploy because I know this now? And do you often think that technology is deployed a little too late? Just like I said, collections is deployed too late sometimes in managing portfolios.
Again, it's all, for me, it was easy to kind of make that 0 to 1 kind of a product and go into the market. But again, someone who is not fully into it, who is great into operations, I would strongly suggest you go subscribe to one of the system which is already built with a lot of experience and expertise, right? And then you really don't need to waste that initial crucial amount of your time. Rather, you can concentrate on your operations. So there are two ways to look at it. One is, if you're really, really good at it, build your own stuff and try to build it as optimally as possible, because you're not trying to sell it out. As so your spends on the technology that you're building should be as minimal as possible and as quicker, better than the others that are available in the market. Only then I would choose the option one. Else, if I was a great operations guy, then I would have rather spend my energies on operations, on teams, and the infra and stuff like that, but not building or rebuilding the entire wheel again.
So even our first 100 batteries that we sort of leased out, right? And we bought and leased out. The EMIs were, of course, the repayments were coming in, and we didn't really build anything till the point where we said we need to understand this a little bit more, right? And something that we built for ourselves essentially has now transitioned into being FleetForce, where we sort of taking this outside, right? And our own fintech modeling and NBFC modeling again runs on this platform itself. So great. I mean, it's great to know that there are people who appreciate the amount of data. Just one question: is there too much of it? Is there too much data, or you believe there's a cause and effect, or there's coincidence, as they say sometimes in data, and there's no causality and effect? Or do you think there is there's nuance to all this data that's available?
Right. And again, today we are living in this world of data everywhere. Too much data is also not really useful. Whatever is needed in terms of every nuance of your, the journey of a vehicle, say, it can be anything about the vehicle battery or a charger, or it can be in terms of the utilization, in terms of how the usage is going on the customer side. I think anything around it, and if you are able to kind of truly make a value from it in terms of a right metric out of it, or tomorrow you are able to monetize that particular data point of data, then I think it's always good. But then just for the sake of having a lot of data doesn't make any sense. Today we are having more than 192 million kilometers information. Right now, if I have to keep that entire raw data just keeping there, what can I do? At the end of the day, it's processed. Today I have my own kind of metric available, but then over a period of time, you need to see when to let go of that particular data and what you are actually doing with that particular data set, and how, what kind of inferences you are able to make out of that particular data set.
So, Shrikant, my last question, and then maybe if there are questions, we could sort of take it from the audience, and let's make life a little difficult for Tanuja and Sadbir. How do you look at the lender relationship with data, and maybe creating very contextualized underwriting models for a very different ecosystem and industry?
See, I think the new age fintechs and the evolution also is actually here. Earlier, people were never even looking at funding a low speed asset. Today, there are new age fintechs, like yours, TapFin, who is actually doing that, just relying on the backed data points that are coming from this particular asset, right? So I think it's important for the fintechs to kind of transition into the real life use cases, because at the end of the day, it's the same kind of an asset, right? One has got registration, the other one has not got registration. Hypothecation, multiple ways to kind of create it, underwriting, multiple ways to kind of underwrite it. So now, are we confident on the vehicle or no? Am I able to get back that particular vehicle or no? So again, there is a different ways to look at it, but then because I'm on the other side, and I'm asking the lenders, so lenders will have their own set of problems. But I would say we really don't need to look at that as a big of a challenge, because today, as I said, you are able to monitor, control every nuance of that particular asset, and you are able to predict if this is going to work, not work, what is going to be my salvage value if this particular entity is going to go to a toss, right? Earlier was a different scenario, but now it's a different scenario. But it's I would see that new age fintech companies are actually looking at the data and doing it, and this has to exponentially scale. Only then people like us can easily scale.
Agreed. No, I'm in complete agreement with you, and that's why we keep on saying we have three companies: one technology, one fintech, and one NBFC Go Green. And the task of the technology company is to build something which the other two rely on to do business, right? Thank you so much, Srikanth, for your time. I don't know if there are any questions, or if not, then of course, I don't see questions. I think we were very, very clear with what we wanted to say, I guess. So. Yeah, if there are no questions, then what we can do is hand this over to Tanisa and to Sadhbir to sort of give us a lender's view on this.
Sure, I think we can move ahead.
All right. Thank you so much for your time, Srikanth. It was a pleasure to talk to you. As always, it's great to hear your insights.
Thanks, Aditya. Thanks for having me here.
Thanks. Take care. Bye.
Hey, thank you, Shrikant. Thank you, Aditya. Great breakdown. What's actually happening with fleet operators on the ground. Where they're actually going to now increasingly use data to make better decisions when it comes to operations and their assets. More importantly, how can they become finance ready? As a quick introduction, I am the co-founder and COO of TapFin. I think time passes you by when you do multiple things, but maybe 19 odd years of banking experience and three and a half years of now I would say the EV ecosystem experience. And when we started TapFin, or rather in the last 18 months, we've had the opportunity to talk to multiple lenders, operators, ecosystem participants, to understand really why EV financing did not scale at the pace that everybody was expecting it to. And of course, a few gaps that have emerged as key themes revolve around the lender's lack of visibility of asset health, real life usage of those assets, residual values, secondary market understanding, amongst a few other things. Now, to understand, the lender's perspective of EV financing, both has an opportunity as well as a challenge, which both Shrikant and Aditya mentioned. We'd invite Mr. Sadhbir Singh, business head, EV at Bike Bazaar, where he leads the company's electric mobility business and brings in very deep and rich experience across financial services as well as mobility. Hi, Sadhbir. Welcome to the conversation.
Hi, Tanisa. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you so much. I actually am going to put you on the spot right away, knowing that I can with you. I'll always get honest answers. Sadhbir, just for everyone's understanding as well, you are in a very unique position, right? Where on one side, you are leading Bike Bazaar's mobility business as an operator with your own EV rental business. You have been and are increasingly inclined to use data for your decision making. On the other side, you have your own in-house NBFC, which is a pioneer. If I look at two-wheeler industry, both ICE, and then, you were one of the earlier adopters of EV financing. But lenders typically, traditionally, have been a little slow to the party when it comes to adoption of data, right? In decision making and underwriting. Now, if you were to be a fly on the wall and you had to see how these two views align in future, or whether they actually align or not. I just thought, maybe for our audience, you can also help us explain the lender's perspective.
Yeah, sure. So first of all, congratulations, guys, on actually for the launch of FleetForce, and I've been very eager to look at it. And since we have been having these discussions for the last month or so,
Yeah.
so yeah, so many congratulations to the entire TapFin team.
Thank you so
And
much.
so yeah, Tanita, so basically you're right. So I have been on both sides of the table. So when I started in the EV mobility space, I was looking from the perspective of the lender. And as you mentioned, the major issues that come why EV financing has not been able to scale that rapidly, which has been thought of that it would scale and reach 25% penetration XYZ by various industry leaders. The major issue is lack of financing. Now, because in EV, what I feel and we feel as a company is that ICE vehicles are a product of engineering and EV is a product of technology. So when it comes to technology, it has to be data backed, right? You cannot use the similar kind of traditional models that have been going around for financing ICE vehicles. Now, ICE is already a mature technology. I have not seen innovation happening in the ICE model for over last 2 decades or so. I think the last innovation that happened on the engine front was the launch of DTC SI engine by Bajaj, right?
Hmm.
So nothing has happened over the last 2 decades or so. Whereas in EV, every day you find something new happening. The battery technology is changing. When I started financing electric vehicles, it was all low speed, it was all lead acid. Over the past 4 years, I've seen a complete transition towards lithium, NMC, LFP, LMFP, so many technologies coming up. So, what we feel is from the lender perspective, data is the key. And why data is the key, especially in fleet business, because your utilization percentage and how the vehicle is actually getting used basically decides what are your underwriting models going to be. Right. So when you are financing a fleet, you don't just finance basis the warranty that is being offered by the OEM or the battery manufacturer or someone, because the usage in the fleet business is very different than a personal mobility business. Now, B2C, you can depend upon any kind of traditional matrices that are available, which is standard warranty, XYZ, and all those things. But when it comes to fleet business, you cannot depend on that because these guys who take these vehicles, the gig workers or delivery executives, they actually abuse it rather than use it because it's
Yes.
not their vehicle. And I am completely resonating with what Shrikant said that Indians, these gig workers who are basically uh, are the are basically at the forefront of this transition of EVs do not think that these vehicles are theirs. So they kind of abuse it and that impacts. And this business is very thin margin business, right? So your utilization percentage, even a 1% delta makes the entire gameplay, right? So how the vehicle is going to be used, how that asset is going to be used when it comes to fleet is very important. Tracking and all those things, the battery health, because battery is the key component. Now at the end of life, now what are the question marks that comes in the minds of lenders is one, what happens when I repossess this asset? Right now at that point in time, if the battery health, and I can know that in this particular set of business my battery health will degrade by say a DOD of 20%, then accordingly I can build that in my modeling, which is currently lacking, right? Because all these people, all the NBFCs including Bike Bazaar, when we started, we were looking at the traditional models of financing. And but in EVs, with the customer, you have to also underwrite the asset, which is not the case when it comes to ICE. In
Hmm.
ICE, you know that this vehicle, if I buy an Activa today, it's going to last for 5 to 6 years bare minimum and fetch me 50 to 60% of the RP. Whereas in EV, you cannot tell that right now. So that is one key case that I see. And to answer your second part of the question, yes, I see uh, these two parts intersecting because when it comes to now, I think most of the people who are there focusing on electric vehicles specifically, I'm not talking with the likes of traditional NBFCs which are there, but people who are focusing only on electric vehicles, two-wheelers, three-wheelers, four-wheelers, have started to understand that there has to be some innovation happening in the entire financial modeling. And data is the key to it in order to get early warning signals, in order to understand the residual value at the end of life, in order to link your tenors actually to the usage of the vehicle, in order to take steps during the tenor, even if there is no bounce or arrear happening, in order to understand. Because in fleet, this is an income earning asset. People are using it for generating income. And if the vehicle is not running and you know preemptively that the vehicle is not going to run, then you can take steps earlier and basically align your collection strategies accordingly. So I think that intersection is happening. It is taking time, and that's why we are seeing the penetration not growing as fast as possible. Uh, but yeah, I think this is something that is happening across.
No, thank you so much, Sadhbir. I think this happens to be a common passion between the two of us when we keep talking about technology and data and how it can actually shape the entire ecosystem. But what I've also seen with the larger sector, and of course, I know how progressive your thoughts are on the subject. But with the larger lending names that I see, banks, NBFCs, right, the traditional ones, as we say, the ones that are actually underwriting volumes at a mass level, uh, they, for example, when they look at early warning signals also, and you refer to that and how data can be modeled around it, they will still look at very financial metrics. They will still look at repayment. If the money is coming back, everything is fine. I don't need to see it. I have a collection set up. And like Aditya and Shrikant were mentioning, a lot of experience in ICE is now anecdotal, established industry, like you said. On the other side, data can lenders, and this is also because you do understand your peers in the segment really well. uh, can they look at data from these platforms, from these assets, from these batteries, to actually maybe mix it up with non-financial metrics, like you were saying, utilization, right? The other part really is, are you seeing also the lenders who are being open to technology actually looking at using this technology for ICE vehicles, which they've never done in the past? And I'll tell you where I'm coming from. In a few lender conversations, they've actually said, if you can give us these insights, because the other part is data dumps, right? I mean, lenders also do not have the in-house expertise to read the data into insights, which either are predictive or diagnostic or action taking, right? How do you see this panning out in the lender segment, both from an ICE and EV and also non-financial metric, EWS?
So, Tanisha, as I mentioned earlier, also now, if we have to finance an electric vehicle with data, we have to change the financial modeling. I think everyone has accepted it who wants to focus on electric vehicles. It cannot be the traditional way and you just underwrite the customer. That's it. You have to underwrite the asset. And to underwrite the asset, you definitely need some data. Now, when I talk about traditional NBFCs who are underwriting like masses on B2C platform, why they are not adopting to underwriting this asset is because they would not want to spend that much amount of time to do it, right? Because electric vehicles still forms a very small pie of the entire pizza, right? So it's like only 7.6% as of last month. Now, why to spend that time and effort to do it?
Correct.
Because there is a lot of big chunk that is available, wherein, and when we are discussing with our peers and competition in the market, I was actually shocked to see certain competition where they did not have the data of how many electric vehicles they have financed. Right? It was just like
Yeah.
it's a part of their entire two-wheeler thing, and people are doing it. And when we
Yeah.
spoke to some field executives who are financing it, they were more keen on ICE vehicles rather than electric because it's much easier to source. Right? In
Right.
EVs, there are restrictions of which OEM to do, tenor restrictions on tenors and everything. So it's always said in India, not in India, across the world, you find the easy way out, right? So
Yeah,
that's what is
yeah.
happening. You need to spend some effort, like people like you who have developed this platform, Bike Bazaar, all the EV focused people who are there need to spend some time and effort to build this platform. And I think the mass adoption that is going to come. The first point, the cusp of it is going to be fleet operators and last mile mobility. And we believe that if the electric two-wheeler penetration is somewhere around 7.5%, in B2B it has already crossed 25 to 26%. So that is where we are seeing. And when we see three-wheelers, because we finance three-wheelers also, it's already at 60%. Right? Why is it at 60%? Because the usage is commercial. Now, when you move to commercial, electric vehicles make perfect sense, right? And I think that is where it will happen. And for fleet to underwrite fleet, because money would be required for everyone to scale, capital would be required, and lenders have to adopt to it. So when we used to do our fleet operating business, our key criteria was what is the utilization, and we definitely asked for the telematics data during the tenure also, right? In order to understand that if there can be a default, because if the vehicle is not put on ground, it's not earning money, obviously the fleet operator or someone is going to default, because this is not a very age old business wherein people have been there doing it for legacy. No, it's all the people who are there, some 50 odd people who are doing this business, mostly are startups, right? And many of the people, barring a few, have a fleet of around 500 to 1000 vehicles, right? Which is not very high capital requirement. So it's early. I think the entry barriers are lower. People are entering into it, but in order for lenders to take some risky calls, because risk has to be taken on both the sides, so in order for lenders to take this, data is the key. So that is going to happen. Now, when we see ICE and EV interaction in terms of data, I have not seen that requirement come across, because we do a lot of pre-owned financing also, wherein I feel data can be used more in the pre-owned vehicles in order to estimate the useful life of that asset. We have not seen that requirement coming, because that technology has matured, and people, outside mechanics and even smaller players can tell you that whether this engine needs some work or doesn't need some work. So I think in AV, definitely that intersection is coming. It is going to happen with new age fintech players. It is going to happen with people who are focused on electric vehicles. For the mass players, the traditional NBFCs, I think it will still take some time because it requires an extra effort to do.
No, that's a great point that you made, right? Basically, a benchmark of sorts, a credit score or a profile for fleets, because for individuals, it exists, right? And it's generally considered to be a loan to the individual, where it's very, very CIBIL based, for example, or multiple other factors around residency, job, income, etc. However, for fleet, traditionally, again, underwriting has happened on, let's say, financials. When you
Correct.
marry the operational and asset intelligence to, let's say, the customer's financial situation, there is an opportunity, obviously, to underwrite differently, develop different underwriting models.
100% return. 100%, definitely. Because when you come to fleet, the underwriting is completely different. Yes, definitely the financials are seen. You definitely have to build those financials in the model to understand how strong the business model of the company is. But
Right.
when it comes to data, it has to be married into the financial modeling. And like the scoring matrix that we have at Bike Bazaar when we underwrite fleet, two of the biggest weightage criteria is the utilization and the telematics data, the frequency at which it is giving the data. So that is two of the highest weightage factors that we have while giving the score to any of the fleet guy. Now, we are also building there, because at that point in time when we are doing underwriting, not many fleet operators are also ready to share that data, correct? Because it's confidential and we understand that. But we request that data on a regular basis, and every month we request that data from the fleet operators to understand that, okay, if there is something going wrong or if everything is going right. Because when you go wrong, definitely there are reasons you can identify, but we should also know where we are doing right also. Why is someone doing 95% occupancy? Why is someone at 75% occupancy? So we should have answers for both in order to replicate it for other people, because for lenders, it is multiple people that we are going to do loan to. And when I feel this fleet operator lending is coming into picture, it doesn't stop at just giving the loan to them. It has
Correct.
to be a relationship that goes on till the tenure of the loan, providing insights. So it's not only debt, it's basically, I would say, a partnership in the business that the lenders have to do, and understand that where that fleet operator can work, go wrong, go right, and what are the steps that can be taken from the lender point of view in order to facilitate him to increase his occupancy.
No, absolutely. And we've seen this over the last, I don't know how many months and years now. Fleet, or rather B2B, especially in the fleet mobility business, it's far more nuanced. Just business model differences can make a lot of difference. You can't just underwrite it as a standard SME loan, with vehicle as an asset. Business model difference, technology difference, the same OEM, same vehicle performing very differently in Pune versus Delhi. And we've seen that,
Correct.
right? We've discussed that in the past also. I can actually go on and on, but I see a few questions. Let me start asking you those questions. I'm sure a few of them are actually aligned to what I wanted to ask as well. Ankur Kaushik asks, can you share how data-driven approaches are actually being applied today in the EV lending space? Any real-world examples or use cases demonstrate how data is helping lenders make better decisions or improve access to financing for customers?
Yeah, so Ankur, thanks for asking that. So yeah, as I mentioned, so when it comes to fleet operations and fleet business underwriting, data is becoming one of the key aspects of underwriting these fleets. So when I say data, it doesn't mean the data that the operator is providing us. We actually go deep dive into the telematics and understand the utilization basis the data that has been thrown out by the IoT. We understand the SOC, SOH of the batteries that are coming out. Now, I would not name the client here, live examples, but we do have these factors, these parameters keyed in our underwriting model. And basis those, our underwriting model throws out a score. So when we do traditional underwriting, like a B2C underwriting, I don't have those factors modeled in. They are not a part of my BRE. But when it comes to fleet business, they are definitely a part of it. And those models are getting evolved on a regular basis, right? So when it comes to fleet, earlier we used to have only utilizations and the SOC and SOH. Now, utilization, as Tanisa was mentioning, utilization basis business modeling is also getting factored into whether it's a 3PL, whether it's a rental business, whether it's only for e-commerce, whether it's for quick commerce, whether it's for food. All those things are getting factored into the business modeling. So I think yes, it is getting factored into, and the lenders now, I would say not all lenders, people who are focused on electric vehicles and have understood that okay, data is the key to underwrite, have factored these into their criterias, and they are getting basically built into it.
Uh, a few other questions on chat as well as Q&A. So I'm just going to merge a few questions together,
Sure.
based on theme. So for example, I think one question really revolves around the lender's hesitation to come into the EV space. And we've seen that either, because if lack of understanding of residual value or a secondary market, which they've seen in ICE, but they don't know. Obviously that means either the lenders are sitting out or they are pricing the risk much higher because of lack of a credit cycle or redeployment cycle that they've seen. So the question really revolves around, and the other part of this question is typically lenders use historical data to underwrite a customer, whether ICE, B2C, B2B, it's all historical performance. In EV, is there a hesitation, not just from a resale value, but also using data which is more futuristic, and lenders typically are not aligned to that thought process?
Okay, so first I would answer the first part of the questions why lenders are sitting out. And I think, see, as from lenders' perspective, if I have to come about, we are very pessimistic guys. We always think about when I
Worst
give a
case
loan, I
scenarios.
think about repossession.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Collections
that
kaise
is
hoga?
when I'm doing a sale, I am talking about repossession because uh, for any NBFC or for any lender, collection is the backbone. If I stand on road right now, 100 people will come and take a loan from me, right? Collections is the backbone. So repossessions, now we have seen in our past, and I think it's not only because of electric vehicles, it's because the technology is changing. Now, when we repossessed, if I do a say 2 year loan for a lead acid model, right? Now, in say maybe that technology becomes obsolete. Now, when I repossess that asset, now I'm not going to get any value out of it. And there are not many people who are there to buy these assets also. Now, when we liquidate these assets from a lender perspective, they are also those traditional guys who are buying it, like Shriram Auto Mall, like Mahindra, and all those brokers. Everyone is the same. There is no one in the aftermarket also who is buying an electric vehicle for an electric vehicle, right? So the major risk that comes here is lack of understanding on the residual value because the losses are very high when it comes to electric vehicles, whether it be two-wheeler, whether it be three-wheeler. And that is one of the reasons why we launched our EV rental company, so that all the repossessed assets of the NBFC can be used in the EV rental business, right? So in order to get more and more value, because we also know that the vehicle has not finished its end of life. It is still there. The battery is there, and there are n number of things that can be done with the vehicle. You can retrofit it. The battery can be used for secondary life. Although you can convert to battery swapping, everything is possible now. So the ever evolving technology, and I feel that is still going to be one of the big question marks for this EV adoption to come in India, because the ever evolving technology, if until and unless it stabilizes to a certain extent, till that time, the most of the lenders would want to sit out of it. That is one. Now, when it comes to historical data, see, I think that is the data that we have. Now, futuristic data will also, so whatsoever modeling is done, whatever tools we employ into, that is also going to be based on some historical data. The future data that is going to be prediction, whatever model is going to be done, there has to be some input going into it. That is always the historical data. Now, if you have to rely on futuristic data, again, my point comes back to the same thing. I have not seen the future of electric vehicles. Now, if currently we are on LFP cells and somebody is using LMFP cells, now if we move to solid state in the next 2 years, and I have done a 5-year loan considering LFP, after 2 to 3 years, that battery is not going to be used for me. People are not going to buy it because the technology has become obsolete, right? So until I'm just saying the answer for both the question is stability is important. uh, till last 2 years, I think the stability was not there from the point of view of government and subsidies and everything, which has now come into. If I talk about two-wheelers, why did all these legacy players take their own sweet time to enter into the EV market? We have been financing electric vehicles since 2018, but it is only last 2 years that all these legacy players have started to come into, because they were also waiting for this. They were waiting for the technology to get stabilized. They were waiting for all these subsidies to get stabilized, and all those things happen. Now there is no subsidy. In a way, there is no subsidy at all. So what I feel is the technology is also going to stabilize. Maybe it will take some 3 to 5 years more for the technology to get stabilized. Once it is done, then the lenders will also start getting into it. When we started electric vehicle financing, I think we were the first ones to do it. Now, as we speak, there is IDFCs, there is LNTs, there is all the traditional NBFCs who have entered into this, right? So the times have changed. It has taken 5 to 6 years to do so. The only issue is that the rate of adoption that it was predicted to happen has not happened, but it's going to happen. Maybe in the next 5 years, we would see electric penetration in two-wheelers maybe somewhere around 25 to 30% at the overall level. It's not going to be 80%, which has been predicted earlier. That is for sure. But it's going to be 25 to 30%. That is also very big numbers considering the number of two-wheelers that are sold in the country.
No, absolutely. In the interest of time, I know there are a lot of questions for you, but in the interest of time, maybe I'll ask one last question. How do you, one, obviously there's a resale part, revalue, the quality of the asset, the warranty, right? Where to a large extent the responsibility is predicated on the quality of the asset, the OEM. Of course, the usage by the user, whether it's a driver cum owner or fleet operator, then. Uh, so there are these multiple ecosystem participants that need to come in, take ownership, and how do you see the collaboration, let's say, between financing companies like yourselves, operators like yourselves, on the other hand, uh, data, AI-enabled data platforms like us, or even NBFC fintech like us, and then the customer? How do you see this collaboration coming together, which sort of creates room for more inclusive and accessible financing? Uh, and I think just link that question maybe to one part. Again, lenders typically are a little wary of coming into B2B or fleet financing for new to credit customers, which effectively means bootstrap customers, they've not raised debt. How does Bike Bazaar look at financing these fleet operators, given the bend of mind towards data?
Okay. So to answer the first part, I've always been the promoter of saying that electric vehicle is an ecosystem play. So it is going to be, I would say, the OEMs, the customer, the fleet operators, the financiers, the data providers, the charging infrastructure players, everyone has to come along. Okay. So then only the rapid adoption, see, 7%, 10% will happen as it is going. It's not going to be an issue there. But when it comes to rapid adoption, and if the country has to go electric, especially when it comes to B2C, right? So what happens in a B2C scenario? It's basically I'm using 20 kilometers a day, right? I don't have time now. I'm accustomed to going to a petrol pump and getting my fuel filled, right? I don't have time to charge these vehicles, and the good quality vehicles that are coming comes with a fixed battery. Now in India, most of the two-wheelers that are getting sold are sold in the rural parts of the country, right? In the likes of UP, Bihar, West Bengal, Rajasthan, MP, all these places. There you don't have charging infrastructure. So the charging infrastructure has to come in. Fast charging batteries has to come in. Swapping has to come in. So everything has to come together. Now I know that swapping is not going to work in B2C. Doesn't make sense, doesn't make economical sense. But for fleet operators to work in, that is definitely the end game. So but people don't have time to even 2 hours, 3 hours to charge the battery now. Right. So swapping is going to be the case. And when it comes to battery manufacturers, OEM, standardization is the key. Now, for swapping to work, standardization has to be there. You cannot have multiple batteries, multiple OEMs going into picture, right? Standardization of the battery has to be there. There are some compliance issues that have to be solved. So it is all across, everyone has to come together, and then only this can happen. Now, coming to new to credit, uh, I don't see that new to credit is anyways a problem, because in fleet operators, we bet on the business model rather than the capability of the guy taking a loan in the past, because somebody has to start, right? If I'm going to someone and asking them money as a fleet operator, so in that case also people will say that you have not raised debt, right? So in that case, I will not be able to kickstart. So we have taken calls on a lot of people, like I would not name them, but there are many companies whom Bike Bazaar has funded, which did not have any fleet when they started. And now they are running at the likes of 2,500 vehicles, right? So it's more on the business model. When you don't have historical data, you bet on the founders, you bet on the business models, and you bet on the ideology of the company. That what is what they are looking at. So so as I'm saying again and again, I'm just reiterating the fact electric vehicles have to be seen from a different lens altogether. We cannot use the same traditional way of underwriting. We cannot use the same traditional way of underwriting the customer, the asset, the OEM. It has to be completely different. And that needs effort, that needs time, and which people are not ready to spend because it's a very small business as of now. But that is something that is going to take it up in the future. Tanisha, you're on mute.
And the COVID legacy continues while speaking while on mute. But no, thank you so much. I know we still have a lot of unanswered questions, but we do need to move forward with the webinar. And thanks a ton, as always. Extremely honest, extremely enlightening, conversation. Maybe we can take up these questions towards the end of the session. But
Sure.
as of now, I'd like to invite our Chief Business Officer, Nikhil, to take us through, our AI-enabled data intelligence platform, FleetForce. And thank you so much, Sadhvi. Thanks a ton.
Thanks, Tanisha. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks a lot, Tony. So I think really insightful inputs there from both, both on the operator side and the lender side. We've heard from the industry stalwarts. Uh, just a quick introduction about myself. I look at the business end of things at TapFin. I come with about 20 years of experience across fintechs, technology companies, core financial services. My last stint was with Paytm, almost a decade-long stint where I would have built and scaled businesses across payments, lending, certain commerce and SaaS businesses. So that's just a quick background. Neha, if you could just help bring up the slides. I just before we actually, I know everybody's very excited about the product reveal, and Yugraj is just going to come in a little later. But I think before we move on to that, what's really important to understand is the whole thesis behind sort of coming up with, or rather why we have come up with the FleetForce product. Uh, and I think what's really important, I can almost relate to the kind of inputs that we heard from Shrikant and then from Sadbir. What is extremely critical is that we've understood that everybody within the ecosystem wants to scale, and there is obviously something holding back, and obviously financing is at the very core of it. But before we even get to that, I think what we realized over the last about 12 to 18 months of interactions with hundreds of fleet operators. We did a voice of customer, sort of spoke with them on ground, and a lot of first principles sort of thinking went into sort of understanding and sort of building what we've built. But the common themes which came out across these interactions were largely across three or four streams. One is that while we've been talking about data, and there is a lot of data that exists, there's multiple sources of data coming in from IoTs, telematics, different OEMs, etc. So there's a lot of data, obviously, which is there. But I think where we realized what the operators were struggling from was very little of this data is actually, actionable, relevant data that they can, understand and make sense of. Because it's one thing to have the data, and the second is to have it in a format which is consumable. Very little understanding of how, a lot of these data inputs or parameters actually impact the revenue or the financial aspect of their business. So there's very little understanding on that. So that's really what is keeping them, sort of blindsided. There's obviously complex models. We spoke about that, multiple form factors, multiple IoTs that any fleet operator is working on at any point of time. So there's a fair bit of blindsidedness as far as that is concerned. The second big theme, and we try to capture this through this word cloud. The second big theme, which if you also realize, it's a function of number of inputs that we would have seen across operators, was around revenue leakages, which is happening. So despite a lot of this data, what's interesting to understand is that there's a lot of revenue leakages which are happening because of downtime, because of and that downtime is in turn is a function of probably poor charging behavior. So multiple driver behavior, asset related behavior that we have tried to capture, and multiple sort of leakages which essentially lead to a lack of profitability in terms of the way the operations are actually being run. So that's something which, again, because the operator is not able to understand where the leakage is happening, he's actually not able to plug it. The third one, which we tried to understand, was a lot of operators are actually concerned, especially let's say when it comes to EVs. A lot of operators are actually concerned about considering battery, is being a very dominant part of the overall cost of the vehicle. They're obviously blindsided on how the battery health is behaving, how the battery is degrading over a period of time. There's again behaviors regarding charging, the way the asset is being used, which is actually leading to degradation, which may be faster than expected. And they really do not have any answers to say where is that happening or how do they actually plug it. So that's the other part. And all of this essentially, all of these leakages or suboptimal, I would say utilization of assets, which is happening, is actually preventing them from being able to unlock financing, really, which is actually the enabler to scale up faster, which really is the core theme. If you see that financing is a big blocker, but essentially the lack of meaningful insights and interventions is actually preventing them to be able to address these issues, to be able to unlock this financing. So that's really at the core of why we have built the solution. Now we can move on. So, I mean, just briefly to sort of before Yugraj comes in, I mentioned to you what we've tried to do with FleetForce is a lot of, first principles, sort of ground up thinking to be able to aggregate data across multiple, sources, whether it's from IoTs, GPS, BMS systems, multiple OEMs, charging points. Currently, this data is broken, a lot of it not being clean. We've tried to sort of aggregate this and sort of process and run our AI based models on that to be able to actually come up with meaningful insights, whether it's with regards to the battery SOC or the battery health or the SOH. There is a lot of safety triggers which essentially get sort of triggered, which if ignored obviously degrades the battery health over a period of time. The operators are often blindsided around warranty and the applicability and how their cycles are versus how the applicability of the warranty. So there really is a lack of visualization and insights which we've tried to sort of now plug in as at a unified sort of level, cutting across their portfolio, overall portfolio, and to be able to come up with predictive sort of maintenance insights, so we actually prevent the loss before it happens. At the core of it, again, like I said, the objective is really to be able to, so while a lot of other platforms do sort of showcase data or raw data to the operator, the objective here is to sort of contextualize it and actually link it to sort of unlocking I would say financial gains. It would either be in terms of, enhancing and optimizing, revenue optimization, which is there, plus obviously unlocking, credit, better decisioning, cheaper financing, I would say. So that's really at the core of it. And if you look at it, the way this is expected to pan out is that, from the moment the operator actually plugs in to this particular platform, he starts seeing, gains from day zero. But obviously, the more meaningful gains in terms of better unit economics and sort of optimization on the revenue start kicking in, let's say, post about 3 or 4 months of active intervention, when the operator acts on the insights that we share with them, to be eventually able to sort of unlock capital deployment as far as the operators are concerned. I'm actually very, very happy to sort of share that we actually did a sort of pilot rollout with a few select operators over the course of the last few months, and the results have been, I would say, extremely, extremely encouraging, and in fact beat our estimates. We almost saw, across most of these operators, a substantial increase of about 10 to 12% on the utilization metrics that we were tracking. Eventually, obviously, that did result in a fair bit of increase of almost 15 odd percent plus on the revenue itself, that a lot of these operators were able to gain when they acted on some of the interventions that we called out. And obviously, while we've not seen it, but our estimate is that this is likely to be able to obviously influence the resale value as far as the assets are concerned, with better interventions and the better way of sort of running these assets as well. So that's largely just to summarize the thesis for for the FleetForce product. I won't hold back further. I'll hand it over to Yugraj for a quick walkthrough and the product reveal for FleetForce. Thank you.
Uh, thank you, Nikhil. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Yuvraj Shukla, Head of Product at TapFin, and I'm very excited to welcome you to the launch of our new platform, FleetForce. So let's get straight into what FleetForce is. Let me share my screen. Please let me know the screen is visible. Yeah. So before diving into the platform, just wanted to let you know like why we have built it. So over the last year, we have spoken to multiple fleet operators, and we found out that all the operators issues were falling into four major categories, which are revenue leakages from underutilized and poorly run assets, no visibility into health and performance of the asset. Third is scattered unreliable data across IoT devices and dashboard. And the last, warranty-based usability of the asset. So these aren't small issues. They directly affect operators' unit economics and trust with financials. With FleetForce, we are trying to tackle this with four core segments, which are revenue insights, health insights, data insights, and warranty insights. Each one is designed to make fleet management simpler, more predictable, and more profitable. So now, before diving deeper into each insight, let me explain you like how we have solved this technically and why FleetForce is different from others platform. So we know that operators are not uniform. Every single operator might run two-wheeler for quick commerce, three-wheeler for last mile logistic, four-wheeler for intercity routes. And to that, that's in multiple shift. It can be passenger fleet in the morning, e-commerce in the afternoon, and you suddenly have multiple personas within the same fleet. So that's the complexity. That's the complexity which we wanted to solve, and that's why we designed FleetForce. So FleetForce provide a dynamic view that adapts automatically to user business model. So whether you run 50 vehicles in one shift or 500 vehicles across multiple cities, the dashboard shows only what's relevant to you, to your operation. The second major hurdle which we have solved is seamless integration of data from multiple data sources. So there can be different source of truth. Data can be from multiple IoT devices, OEM dashboard. They can be of different formats. But at FleetForce standardize everything automatically and shows meaningful insight to the fleet operator. So let me start with an example. So we ourselves lease 100 asset to an fleet operator. One day we discovers that few batteries have suddenly moved from Hyderabad to Indore. So when we asked the operators, it took their ops team quite some time to figure out why this shift has happened. So that's the reality today. Operators don't always know where the assets are or why they moved and what's the impact of this movement into the bigger picture. So Fleet Force solve these blind spots. Now, this is the view of the dashboard. coming to the revenue insights for the fleet operator, revenue leakage is the single biggest concern, which directly hits their P&L. With revenue insight, we want to tell you the financial intelligence by comparing your actual revenue with your own target and with the industry performance and conclude it in a score. With revenue insight, we are not just telling you how much you have made, but more importantly, we pinpoint where revenue opportunity is lost, how much is the value of that loss, and how you can recover it. For example, something as basic as state of charge, SOC at the shift start make a huge difference. If a vehicle, let's say, start at low SOC, the driver either has to stop mid shift to charge or deliver fewer trips. That means it will lead to lost order, wasted time, and lower revenue per vehicle. Just multiply this across 50 or 1,000 assets, and suddenly your entire P&L takes a hit. So other than SOC, there can be reasons of mid-shift charging, full day downtime, data downtime, driving patterns, excessive idling. So these are the patterns which FleetForce try to take it out for the fleet operators. So FleetForce not only identifies these patterns, but also shows you the revenue you are losing, the monetary value you can recover by fixing them. Uh, yeah. So coming to the next pain point, which is health of the asset. So operator often don't realize how their charging habits or poor SOC management silently damage their battery health. So with FleetForce continuously monitor usage, SOC, and BMS alerts and translate them into simple insights and tell you how it is impacting your assets and overall performance. So instead of just raw alerts, you will see which assets are at high, medium, or at low risk, what operational practices are causing degradation, and how you can take preventive steps. So next major segment is data. So now let's talk about data. So many operators aren't sure which hardware they are using or what impact that hardware has on the data quality. Poor devices or poor data gaps means that operator lose visibility, not knowing if an asset is moving, idle, immobilized, or even misplaced. Remember the example which I shared earlier. We discovered that the battery had moved hundreds of kilometers away from their assigned location, something the owner of the fleet realized much later. So that exactly the kind of blind spot we wanted to tackle with this course segment. With our data insight, we fixes this. We unify data across all the IoT devices, so exactly how often and how long data is lost. With this, we also track mobilization and immobilization events and create insights so that you know when assets are stuck, you know why it had happened, what it means for the utilization. And at last, we have warranty as a core segment. So warranty is one of the most overlooked factors in the fleet management. Many operators don't know how much of their cycle or kilometer warranty has already been consumed. Ideally, assets should be utilized to their maximum within the warranty period, so operators can avoid surprise downtime and unexpected replacement costs. So with FleetForce, we try to solve this by giving you a clear view of the warranty left, industry comparison to see if your usage is above or below norms, and insight into whether your fleet is running within warranty coverage. So this will help you to plan maintenance, reduce unexpected costs, and make better decision on resale and replacement of the assets. So beyond these four key segments, FleetForce also highlight the most critical alerts that need immediate actions by showing you exactly how which vehicles are affected, what the issue are, and the risk involved. And it goes a step further. FleetForce detects the pattern like high idle delays, abnormal geo behaviors, and turns them into predictive insight, which means you can act early before revenue is lost or the asset is compromised. To sum up, the dashboard give you the fleet insight, but for a deeper analysis at the individual asset level, you can drill down into asset passport, where you can see SOH trend and live asset snapshot. You can also see critical and predictive insight at the asset level, along with four key segments which we talked earlier at the individual asset level. More on it, as a fleet operator, you can access our recycle decision module, where you can find out remaining useful life, revenue opportunity left per asset, and estimated uh, recycle value. And from here, you can take action on the recycle also. So alongside the next gen insight, FleetForce also offers you some of the core fleet management system features. With track and trace, you can monitor assets in real time, create geofence, replay the assets route, and analyze the trip performance. You can also review historical performance, manage team-based role, and even track issues with integrated ticketing system. So to summarize, uh, FleetForce was built by listening to operators and solving real-world challenges. It helps you maximize your revenue by plugging leaks, turn scattered data into actionable financial intelligence, and help you extend the life and residual value of your asset. So currently, we are live with our early partners, and we would love for you to experience FleetForce firsthand. So post this call, please connect with our team, and we'll onboard you, and we'll create a tailored demo just for your fleet. Thank you. Over to you, Neha.
Thanks a lot, Yugraj, and thank you to all the speakers for those insightful sessions. Yugraj, yeah, thank you. So, again, as a reminder, we are giving 1 month of free subscription to people who register for the one-on-one demo on the platform with our fleet experts. This offer is only valid for today and tomorrow, and you can register using the link that we have pinged in the Q&A. I think it's already there in the Q&A. Now we come up with the final part, a lot of questions that we have received, and we'll try to answer most of them. And I think we can start with the first set of questions, which are directed to the lender part of it. I think, Tanisa, would you like to take the questions up?
Sure, I think a few of these were answered from Sabir as well, during our session. Maybe I'll just see if, there are themes that we can club and I can answer as many as possible. How is asset underwriting different from ICE versus EV? Like Sabir had also mentioned, typically lenders have seen EV over a period of 30, 40, 50 years. The fuel technology challenges have not been the same that today exist for, let's say, an EV, where there is a charging infra. Business models, for example, either you were using petrol, diesel, or CNG, depending on your participation in the journey. But today in EV, as a fleet operator, not just business model differences on 3PL versus fleet versus rental, but whether you're using a fixed battery, swappable battery, where are you charging, how much are you charging, which city, how the temperature of that city is affecting the battery, that performance. I think if you look at it, the lenders who have been underwriting EV with a very traditional lens, which has been majority of the market over the past 2, 3 years, now they are understanding that EV cannot be underwritten the same way as an ICE vehicle. You cannot just look at past historical performance on business or financials. You will actually have to underwrite the asset as technology, which Sadhbir started with when he was addressing the session. So I think that is a quick answer to how asset underwriting is, maybe not, but will be very different. Data, analytics, insights backed. Uh, I think the other question was answered around resale value OEM. Again, I think one key theme is to understand what lenders are now saying. We cannot just club an EV asset saying it's another vehicle, underwrite it basis traditional models. Resale value will really come from metrics when you start tracking, SOH, and there is no gold standard of measuring SOH in India today. For that matter, in most places there isn't, which is why FleetForce platform, which tracks data on a real-time basis, a T+1 for some parameters, over hundreds of data points. You sort of crunch that into 40, 50 key parameters, depending on lender policies, their underwriting policies, their models that they're building with us. I think that data plugging in, both at a borrower and an asset portfolio level is also going to play an instrumental role in how lenders look at this as an ecosystem. So yeah, I think that if that answers the question on how differently EV will be viewed and underwritten. Rapid growth, I am aware of the extended time as well. Yeah, I think is there any other question, Neha, that we are missing out from, let's say I think we can come back. We do have a couple of questions also on the operations part. I think there is one question which is around swappable battery versus fixed battery from Anand. Yes, the platform builds for both. And that is actually a classic case is, for example, Bike Bazaar, where on the operator model, they are now moving to a swappable battery model because that's, for a certain customer segment, gig workers. And on the NBFC side, they're underwriting the fixed battery as well. So the platform definitely gives predictive insights and data intelligence around both the models. The lenders also are looking at both the models from an underwriting and an early warning signal a little differently. They are building those nuances. That's a short answer to the question. Maybe the last one that I can take, I think is, I think there was some question around the size of the fleet. Is Yes, the platform helps any size of fleet. We typically have seen this working where there is an entire income generation aspect because we also build business models. And typically in a fleet or in a business model B2B customer, you actually have the added complexities of multiple form factors, multiple OEMs, multiple technologies, IoTs, data pools. Actually, as an operator, and I'm sure a lot of people on the call will resonate with it, there is no dearth of data. They're actually drowning in it. Similarly, even for lenders, there is no dearth of data. The issue really happens who's looking at that, who's making that into insights, who's converting that into actionable intelligence, who's actually nudging for action at the right time. Uh, Prevention better than cure. I think if you look at that perspective, yes, anybody who wants to manage their assets better, whether as an individual or as a fleet, the platform can definitely assist. Is there any particular question, Neha, that we want to answer? Otherwise, for everyone else, we can come back if there are questions that are unanswered, either through one-on-one or through an email. We'll definitely get back.
Absolutely, Tanisha. There was one question which I think Nikhil can help with. Will this
Sure.
product be able to make an impact for users who do not have large fleets, but
I
who,
think Turnisa
but
just
yeah.
sort of touched on that, Neha, and
Ah,
I think what works for large fleets definitely sort of, so obviously there's more to it than typically a small operator would need, but obviously whatever he needs is definitely there, is how I would put it. And I think while the product in its existing form definitely does suffice, but we would obviously over the course of time plan to sort of come out with a lighter version of the platform, which specifically is tailor made for our DCO sort of partners. But like I said, it's more than adequate for what they need, and gives them more than they should, that they do need to sort of build in efficiencies into their working models. There's just one more question which was there. I think it is basically a question to say, how does this platform add value to let's say operators working on the aggregator model? I just want to mention here that for any aggregator to sort of optimize their operations as well, we see especially the larger set of operators spending a ton of resources on probably building technology in house. That's probably while their core expertise is actually on operations, but they're having to sort of build or attempt to build technology in house. I think this product practically sort of makes it easier for them, and it's a plug and play solution that they can actually deploy and extend to their sort of attached operators. Essentially, at the core of it is to be able to enable their operators better, and at themselves get better visibility as to how what's the health and utilization levels of their operator partners, which I believe this platform is very very capable of doing. And they essentially do not need to sort of like I said, invest in technology themselves, and probably partner and make use of this particular platform itself.
think I'll just come in and add maybe one bit. Irrespective of technology, form factor, OEM, uh, geography, business model, DCO versus operator, FleetForce is a completely 100% agnostic platform. It does not, so it's really, the layer that comes in and integrates with whether it's manual Excels or data pulls that you have and builds models for your business. I think the other second critical part that I just want to maybe wrap up with, and another can come in, is around the financial intelligence. When there are questions around swappable versus, let's say, fixed, we only are looking at battery as the asset and maybe its SOH and its charging behavior. But there is a lot of intelligence around vehicle driving, OEMs, etc. Which effectively then lends itself to financial intelligence, which is a core part of the platform, which is why we actually have lender partners on the other side partnering with us, so that they can, look at this platform to model their underwriting decisions differently. I think that's it from my side.
So I think so. Thank you, of course, Anisa, Nikhil, Yuvraj, Neha, Sabir, and Shrikant. There are quite a few questions that are left. What we will do, Neha, is let us create these answers. We could either then sort of continue and host the answers on a site or a YouTube channel somewhere people can see it, or whoever's asked specific questions, we can actually send them a response, because it's not nice to not be able to take everyone's questions. So that's a commitment that we will respond to each one of you or create a collective and sort of send you the link so everyone who's still here can review it. There's some very specific question that I would like to answer, but I do realize that we're running out of time. So we will do that.
Absolutely,
So
Aditya. Yeah.
so let's ensure that happens. Thank you so much for everyone who was here. We I think we did not budget enough time, and it's always interesting, and I'm glad that in the 1 hour session it went into 1.5 hours, and there's still questions that are not being answered, which tells us that the whole ecosystem is trying to find ways of working together, and looking for solutions, and people like Hala Mobility and Bike Bazaar and us, we're trying to solve this at different points. And yeah, so we're committed to this, of making this difference, and love to connect with as many of you over the next few weeks, to do demos or just to hear your thoughts on this. Neha, you want to share our LinkedIn profiles and our phone numbers or email IDs? Please do that. We'd love to have people directly reach out to us.
Sure, we'll send an email consisting of all the details to all of the participants that have been in this call. So yeah, we'll share it across.
Thank you so much, everyone. I just want to leave this with one question where most of the one insight, most of the questions again in this was to the financing company, which to everyone at TapFin who's working on the fintech side or the NBFC side of the business, tells us what a massive opportunity and sits there for not just us, and it's almost a responsibility to help in transition, which is how TapFin was started 2 years ago, right? So that's one massive insight that I take with me, that financing continues to remain a massive thing, but as we said it initially, it has to be data backed, and very very differentiated and contextual underwriting. So thank you so much for everyone who was here, and I promise you we'll get back with more responses.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks a lot, everybody.